All right, now on top of all the other amazing things it can do, this is an incredibly capable audio interface and MIDI interface and effects processor for any DAW or computer program you might want to use. I currently have Bitwig here. This is connected via USB-C, and if I simply go into my audio preferences, settings, audio, I can enable the SP404 as my output. Apply now. And what's great about this is that the 404 actually has two sets of outputs available for your DAW. One of them will go into the SP404's effects buses. That would be output 1 and 2. Output 3 and 4 will actually bypass the effects of the 404 and just go straight to the outputs. So you have a dry output and a wet output. And to me, that's amazing. It's really, really a big bonus. And one of the main reasons why I love using the 404 as my Swiss Army knife. If you want the 404 to sync to your DAW's clock, which is probably a good idea if you want to use any tempo-based effects. Let me go to synchronization here. I need to make sure that my DAW is sending clock out to the 404. I need to make sure the 404 is receiving clock from my DAW. Shift Utility. I press the encoder to go to the System menu. I can adjust knob 3 to get to the MIDI tab here, and I already have MIDI sync set up for USB. So all good. Another great thing is that if you want to, we can actually use the sequencer here as a MIDI sequencer to send notes out. Again, I highly encourage you, please read the manual on this. You don't have to go through the whole thing word by word, but there's so many little details, and I'm not going to go through all the settings right now because there's a whole manual for that, all right? But like I said, there's a couple different ways you can utilize MIDI on here and how MIDI notes are sent out. But my main goal here is just to point out the fact that I can use this to process audio both ways. And if I'm sending audio to the 404, I can use the 404 effects to process audio from my DAW, which is pretty great. But for now, let's just demonstrate how we could use this as a basic MIDI controller. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me go back in here. And I want to make sure that my DAW recognizes this as a controller. So now I can use this to play instruments. And a really obvious choice would be to play something like a drum machine. All right, find a little simple drum machine preset here. Let's hit OK. This track is armed. And now what I want to do is make sure, in fact, you know what? I'm going to go into a blank project just to make sure the notes that I play will go to the appropriate place. Okay, and I think these notes are too high. Now the thing is, audio is coming from Bitwig. I don't hear anything because it's going to the SP404. To hear audio going into here, I have to enable the external source. And Bitwig defaults to -10 dB. That's why this is so quiet. There we go. And we already know that with the external source, I can apply effects here. I could assign the external source to one of my effects buses, or I could even use the input effects. But just for the sake of it, let's go ahead and assign. Let's give this some. It's quite nice, quite nice. One last thing I'll demonstrate here just to point it out, because again, as a jack of all trades box, let's say that you got this, you're going to use it as a MIDI controller, and you decide, you know what, I want to sequence something from here. All right. Well, if that's the case, what we could do is we can go to our pattern select. I'm in a different project, so I don't have as many patterns here. And I want to record, let's say, here. I want to do this in a step recording mode, so I'll hit remain. All right. And now I'm in TR rec mode. Let me hold shift and turn up the metronome a bit so I can just get a feel for the tempo. Now at this point, this is in USB sync mode, so it's actually using the tempo from my DAW, okay? Even though the DAW is not actually running right now. Let's just see. So as I increase the tempo in Bitwig, we see the tempo in the SP404 responds. And I could just do this. So now, this is a MIDI step sequencer, okay? And I want to choose, let's say, I think, is this the hi-hat? I think that sounds the hi-hat, so. All right. Again, I don't hear it because I have to turn on external source. There we go. Okay. And the substep, the pitch, velocity, all that stuff works the same way. So this is an incredibly capable MIDI controller, MIDI sequencer, and we hear effects being used on the audio coming from my DAW. There's one more thing I want to show just in terms of using this with the computer, because I think this next thing, it blew me away when I discovered it, and it shocked a lot of people when I showed it to them. And it's also another reason why reading the manual is very important. So stay tuned for the big reveal.